Welcome to Craving the Heat, where desire takes the lead and every story leaves you wanting more. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and share your thoughts in the comments and keep up with our latest naughty stories. The rain had been falling steadily all evening, streaking the windows with silver threads, blurring the garden lights into soft halos. Inside my sister's house, laughter, clinking glasses, and the scent of roasted lamb lingered from the family. Dinner she had hosted. Everyone had gone home hours ago, leaving behind the echo of conversation and the faint hum of silence that follows too much noise. I had stayed behind to help her clean, or maybe because I didn't want to return to my own small apartment where loneliness seemed to seep from the walls. But my sister had gone upstairs early, claiming a headache, and that left me alone with him, Daniel, her husband. He was leaning against the doorway of the kitchen, sleeves rolled up, a glass of scotch in his hand, watching me with an expression I couldn't name. I shouldn't have been so aware of him, my sister's husband, the man she trusted with her heart, the man who had become part of our family, but for years there had been this quiet, unspoken current between us. A glance that lasted a second, too long, a touch of his hand steadying mine when I nearly tripped, his voice softening when he spoke only to me. That night, it was louder. I dried the last dish and turned to find him still there, his gaze steady, almost searching. "You don't have to stay behind," he said, his voice low, carrying something I had never heard from him before. "I don't mind," I whispered, even though the air between us had grown too thick to breathe. When I tried to pass him, he didn't move. He stood there, close enough that I could smell the warm spice of his cologne, see the faint shadow of stubble along his jaw. My heart raced, every part of me screaming that I should leave, that I should not let this moment stretch into something dangerous. But I froze when he leaned closer, his breath brushing my ear. "I waited for you," he said, almost inaudible, as if even he wasn't sure he should admit it. The words shattered me. Every defense I had built, every denial, every line I had drawn in my mind blurred. My pulse thundered in my chest as I pulled back enough to meet his eyes. They weren't cold or distant, they burned, with longing, with hesitation, with something that mirrored the very thing I had been afraid to name inside myself. I should have walked away. I should have told him no. I should have remembered the woman sleeping upstairs, my sister, who had trusted me to always stand beside her. But instead, I found myself whispering back, "Why me?" His hand brushed mine, tentative, trembling. "Because I see you." "I've always seen you." The world seemed to tilt in that moment, the storm outside echoing the chaos inside me. I told myself it was just a whisper, just a fleeting mistake, but when he tilted his head, when his lips hovered a breath away from mine, I didn't step back. Our mouths met, softly at first, then with a hunger that neither of us could hold back anymore. The kiss burned through me, igniting everything I had buried. His hands cupped my face as if I were something fragile, something he was terrified to lose, and I clung to him, desperate, terrified, alive. Every sound, the rain on the glass, the ticking clock, the creak of the floor seemed to vanish until there was only the two of us and the silence of a house that should have never allowed this. We broke apart, gasping, staring at each other as if the world had just changed shape. His forehead rested against mine, his voice hoarse. "This is wrong." "I know," I whispered. "But it feels like we can't stop," he finished for me. I didn't go home that night. And nothing was ever the same again. Every day afterward was a balancing act between guilt and desire, between loyalty and a hunger that only deepened when we tried to deny it. We lived in stolen moments, brushed hands at family gatherings, lingering glances across crowded rooms, excuses to be near one another. And sometimes, when the storm outside mirrored the storm within us, when silence gave us the courage to cross lines we swore we wouldn't, he would wait for me again. And I would let him, because love doesn't always ask permission. And sometimes it blooms where it should never take root. The morning after that first kiss, I woke with a knot in my stomach that no amount of reasoning could untangle. I told myself it had been a mistake, a moment born of exhaustion, whiskey, and loneliness. But as I lay in my bed, staring at the pale light seeping through the curtains, I could still feel the ghost of his lips on mine. My chest tightened when I thought of my sister, her trusting smile, her tired body lying upstairs while I had been in her kitchen with her husband. I avoided the house for weeks after that. I told her I was busy, that work was overwhelming, that I was catching up with friends I had neglected. But none of those lies could quiet the way my heart jumped every time my phone buzzed with his name. His texts were short, careful, but filled with undercurrents I couldn't ignore. I shouldn't have said what I did that night. Then, hours later, but I meant every word. When we finally saw each other again, it was at another family gathering, my sister's birthday dinner. She looked radiant, laughing as she moved through the room, thanking everyone for coming. Daniel played the part of the devoted husband perfectly, his hand on her back, his smile warm and effortless. But every time his eyes found mine across the table, I felt that same fire rise, the one I had tried to bury. It was unbearable, pretending nothing had happened, pretending I didn't ache with the memory of him whispering that he had waited for me later that evening. While my sister cut the cake and everyone gathered around her, he slipped out to the back patio. I followed, though I told myself I shouldn't. The cool night air was sharp against my skin, but his presence was hotter than the fire burning inside me. He didn't say anything at first, just stood there staring out at the darkened yard, his jaw tight. Then, quietly, he said, "Do you think about it?" I swallowed, my throat dry. Every day. That was all it took. He turned and suddenly, his hands were on me again, his mouth crushing against mine, desperate, almost angry. I should have pushed him away, should have remembered that inside the house, my sister was laughing with candles glowing in front of her, but instead, I let myself fall into him, the taste of him undoing every shred of self-control I had left. When we finally broke apart, breathless, his hands trembling against my waist, I knew this wasn't going to fade. It wasn't going to be a single mistake. It had already taken root, and it was growing deeper every time we looked at each other. After that night, it became a rhythm neither of us admitted out loud, but both of us understood. Little excuses to see each other when my sister was away errands that somehow took longer than they should. Drives where we ran into each other, afternoons when she was at yoga or visiting friends. Each stolen moment became riskier, more intoxicating. There were times when the guilt was unbearable. Watching my sister wrap her arms around him, watching her lean into him as if he were her safe place, it broke something inside me. But then he would find me, his hand brushing mine when no one else was looking, his gaze burning through me until the world around us blurred. In those moments, I wasn't her sister. I wasn't betraying her. I was just a woman who had been seen in a way I had never been seen before. The first time we spent an entire night together, it was at a hotel outside the city. He had called me, his voice raw, telling me he couldn't keep pretending. I told myself I wouldn't go, that I would end this once and for all, but I drove there anyway. The second I opened the door and saw him standing there, his expression torn between guilt and hunger, I knew I was lost. That night was nothing like the rushed, breathless kisses in kitchens or on patios. It was slow, deliberate, filled with a passion we had both been starving for. He touched me like I was something sacred, whispered my name like it was the only truth he knew. I gave myself to him completely, and when morning came, I didn't regret a single moment. Even though I knew I should have, we told ourselves it was love, and maybe it was. Or maybe it was just the dangerous allure of wanting what we couldn't have, but it consumed us. Every glance, every touch, every lie we told to protect it only tangled us deeper. And yet, a part of me lived in constant fear that my sister would find out. Fear that someone would see us together. Fear that this secret we had built would come crashing down and destroy everything. Sometimes, in the quiet after he held me, I wondered what would happen if it did. Would he choose her, the woman he had promised forever to? Or would he choose me, the woman he whispered he couldn't live without? But every time I looked into His eyes, every time his arms tightened around me as if letting go would break him, I silenced those thoughts. Because in that moment, none of it mattered. All that mattered was that he had waited for me, and I had answered. The secrecy didn't just shape our affair, it became part of it, the thread binding us together. We lived in shadows, our passion hidden beneath polite smiles and family dinners. But in those shadows, we were more alive than either of us had ever been. Every stolen glance across a crowded room felt like a promise. Every whispered word like a vow no one else could hear. Months passed, and with each one our lies deepened. My sister, blissfully unaware, often praised me for how much time I spent helping around their house, how close Daniel and I seemed to have grown. She laughed one night and teased, "You're the only one he listens to when it comes to fixing that leaky faucet." She had no idea how much weight her words carried, no idea that while Daniel leaned into her touch for the world to see, it was my name he groaned in the dark when no one else could hear. I tried to stay away, tried to stop answering his late night calls or stepping into his arms the moment my sister left the room, but it was impossible. He knew me too well, and I him. There was a gravity between us that neither of us could resist. The hotel became our haven, the one place where we didn't have to pretend. We would check in under different names, sometimes not even speaking when we saw each other in the lobby. But once the door was shut, all restraint vanished. He would kiss me like a starving man, press me against the wall as if the distance between just was unbearable. And when it was over, when the room was quiet except for our breathing, he would hold me with a tenderness that both healed me and destroyed me. Yet the guilt never left. It sat with me at every family gathering, gnawed at me when my sister confided in me about her marriage, about her fears and her dreams. One evening, as she poured herself a glass of wine, she told me she was thinking about starting a family. My chest tightened so hard I could barely breathe. I nodded, smiled, pretended to share her excitement, all the while knowing that the man she wanted to build a life with had just left my bed hours earlier. The lies began to weigh on. Daniel, too. He grew quieter around her, distant in ways she noticed but couldn't name. She complained to me that he seemed distracted, that he worked late too often, that sometimes when she touched him, he seemed far away. I wanted to tell her the truth in those moments, not out of guilt, but out of a selfish, desperate hope that maybe, if she knew, he would finally be mine. But I couldn't do it. She was my sister. The very thought of shattering her broke me, even as I betrayed her every day. One night after another secret meeting, Daniel lay beside me, tracing circles on my bare shoulder. His voice was low, troubled. "I can't keep doing this," he said. My heart lurched. For a moment, I thought he meant us, that he was ending it. But then he continued, "I can't keep lying to her. She deserves the truth." The words terrified me. The truth would destroy her. It would destroy us too. Secrets had become the oxygen of our love. Without them, what would we have left? I begged him not to say anything, to wait, to give me time. He kissed my forehead, promised he wouldn't act without talking to me first. But I could feel the conflict inside him. Things became even more complicated when my sister announced. Trip she and Daniel were planning a week away, just the two of them. She was radiant when she told me, convinced it would bring them closer again. I smiled and nodded, but inside I was unraveling. I didn't know what terrified me more, the thought of them mending the cracks I had helped create, or the thought of her realizing those cracks existed at all. The week before they left, Daniel came to me late one night. His eyes were stormy, his voice rough. "I can't let this go," he said. "Even when I'm with her, it's you I see. It's you I think about." He kissed me then with a desperation that felt like both a promise and a farewell. "If she finds out," he whispered, "I'll lose everything. But if I let you go, I'll lose myself." That week they were away felt like the longest of my life. I went through the motions, work, friends, dinners, but my mind was always with them, imagining what they were doing, what they were saying, whether she noticed the way his eyes wandered when her back was turned. When they returned, my sister was glowing, convinced their marriage was stronger. But Daniel's eyes told me otherwise. The fire between us hadn't dimmed. If anything, it burned hotter, fed by the risk of losing it all. From then on, every meeting carried a sharper edge, every touch heavier with the knowledge that we were racing towards something inevitable. We were no longer just two people caught in passion. We were two people standing on the edge of a cliff, holding hands, knowing that the moment we jumped, there would be no way back. And even though fear clawed at me, even though guilt whispered in my ear every night, I knew one thing with a certainty that scared me. If he asked me to jump, I would doubt the weight of it pressed harder with every passing day. We carried our secret like a loaded gun, tucked away where no one could see, yet always threatening to go off. Each stolen moment felt both like salvation and damnation. There was no turning back now. I knew it, and so did Daniel. He would come. To me in fragments of time, always under the guise of something ordinary, an errand, a visit, a conversation too casual to raise suspicion. But the second the door shut, all pretenses crumbled. His hands would find mine, his lips would silence my doubts, and we would drown in each other as though the world outside didn't exist. In those hours, I belonged to him entirely. But when he left, the hollow ache inside me reminded me of the lie we lived, the betrayal stitched into every breath we took. Sometimes when I looked at my sister, my chest tightened so much I thought I might shatter. She trusted me. She loved me. She confided in me about her dreams, about the little irritations in her marriage, about how sometimes she felt like Daniel was slipping away, but she couldn't put her finger on why. I would hold her hand, offer comfort, even while knowing I was the very reason she felt that distance. And still I couldn't stop. IWOUL Dean single quotes T. Daniel grew restless. The lies wore him down, and I could see it in the shadows beneath his eyes, in the tension carved into his shoulders. One night, as we lay tangled in a hotel bed, he said, "I'm living two lives, and one of them is killing me." His voice cracked, his confession spilling into the space between us. "When I'm with her, I can't even breathe. When I'm with you, I feel alive, but the guilt eats at me until I can't sleep." I turned toward him, my fingers brushing against his cheek. "Then what are we supposed to do?" He didn't answer right away. He just stared at me as though memorizing every line of my face. Finally, he whispered, "I don't know. All I know is that I can't let you go." That was all I needed to hear. I clung to it, even though the uncertainty hung over us like a storm dot. The danger of it made every encounter feel more urgent, more consuming. We were just two people making love. We were two people trying to claim pieces of each other before the world found out and tore us apart. The passion was overwhelming, raw, desperate, the kind of love that left bruises on your skin and scars on your heart. Sometimes I wondered if it was love at all, or just a fire that would eventually burn. "Use ash." But whenever Daniel whispered my name against my skin, whenever he kissed me like he was drowning, I stopped questioning. The facade grew harder to maintain. My sister began noticing things, the way Daniel's eyes would linger on me too long, the excuses he made that didn't add up, the way I sometimes avoided her gaze. One evening, as we all sat together for dinner, I felt her eyes on me, sharp and searching. Daniel's hand brushed mine beneath the table just for a second, but it was enough to make my heart slam against my ribs. I prayed she hadn't seen. After she went to bed, Daniel slipped away under the excuse of work and came straight to me. He was shaking when he kissed me, his words rushed and ragged. "She knows something. I can feel it. We can't keep this up much longer." I wanted to tell him to stop, to end it before everything crumbled. But when I looked into his eyes, all I could say was, "Then let's not stop. Let's just not get caught." We both knew it was foolish. We both knew it couldn't last. And yet, neither of us could walk away. Every touch had become a lifeline. Every kiss a silent agreement that we would risk everything, even the people we loved most, just to have each other the night it nearly unraveled began with a storm. Rain pounded the windows of my apartment, thunder rolling like a warning. Daniel arrived drenched, his shirt clinging to him, his hair plastered to his forehead. He didn't even bother with words. He pulled me into his arms and kissed me with a hunger that bordered on madness. It was as if he needed me to erase every shred of doubt, every fear, every ounce of guilt that weighed him down. We moved together like the storm itself, wild, relentless, inevitable. And afterward, as we lay breathless in the dim light, he whispered, "I can't hide anymore. I need you, not in stolen moments, not in secret, but out in the open. You're the only one who makes me feel alive." My heart pounded, torn between love and terror. I wanted him, God, I wanted him, but I couldn't imagine the destruction that would follow. My sister's face flashed in my mind, her laughter, her trust. If she ever found out, she would never forgive either of us. Still, when Daniel kissed me again, I let myself forget. I let myself believe that love, even forbiddance, could be enough to save us. But deep down, I knew the truth. We were building something fragile on a foundation of lies, and sooner or later, it would all come crashing down. The days that followed blurred together, each one a careful balancing act between lies and longing. I told myself we could hold it together, that maybe we could find a way to live in two worlds forever. But love like ours wasn't meant to stay hidden. It was too consuming, too raw, too much like a flame that refused to die no matter how much. Water we tried to pour on it. Daniel and I became reckless. The more we gave in to each other, the harder it was to pretend in front of my sister. We would brush past each other in hallways, our fingers grazing for the briefest second, and it would send sparks racing through my body. Every stolen glance felt like a promise. Every touch behind closed doors felt like it could undo us. And yet we never stopped. One night he came to me after a fight with her. His voice was tight, his shoulders tense, his eyes burning with a mixture of anger and desperation. "She doesn't understand me. She doesn't see me anymore. But you," his hand cupped my face, trembling. "You make me feel alive. You make me feel like I matter." And then he kissed me with the kind of passion that made the rest of the world disappear. His lips were rough, his breath uneven. His body pressed against mine like he was afraid I would vanish if he let go. We fell into each other, clothes tangled and tossed aside, our hearts racing as if they were trying to outmatch the storm of desire we carried inside. It wasn't just lust, it was something deeper, something that felt both terrifying and inevitable. He whispered my name like it was a prayer, like it was the only word that had ever mattered to him. I clung to him, nails digging into his skin, as if my touch could anchor us in a world that kept trying to pull us apart. Our bodies moved together, with a desperate rhythm, searching for a kind of solace that only we could give each other. When it was over, we lay in the quiet, our skin damp, our breaths heavy. His fingers traced lazy circles along my arm. "I can't keep lying to her," he said softly. "I can't keep lying to myself. I love you, and I don't care who knows anymore." My heart twisted. Love. He had said it so many times in his touch, but never like this. Never with such finality. I wanted to believe him, wanted to let myself drown in the sweetness of those words, but I couldn't ignore the weight of the betrayal that tethered us. And then, as if fate had been waiting. For that moment, the door creaked out, we both froze. My sister stood there. Her eyes, wide and broken, darted between us, between our bodies tangled together, between the clothes scattered on the floor. She didn't scream. She didn't cry. She just stared, as if the world had crumbled in front of her and she couldn't piece it back together. Daniel tried to speak, but no words came out. I reached for the blanket, tried to cover myself, but there was no hiding what she had seen. No excuse, no lie, no way to undo the truth. She whispered my name, so softly it nearly shattered me. Then she turned and walked away. The silence that followed was worse than any storm. Daniel sat beside me, his face pale, his hands shaking. "It's done," he whispered. "She knows." And just like that, Everything we had fought so hard to protect, everything we had risked, exploded around us. The secret was gone. In the weeks that followed, the fallout was brutal. My sister didn't look at me the same way again, if she looked at me at all. The bond we'd shared since childhood was severed, replaced by a void that nothing could fill. Daniel left her. The marriage ended quietly but bitterly. And though he came to me, though he promised me a life together, the guilt never left. We built something from the ashes, but it was never free of the fire that had birthed it. Our love was real, yes, passionate, consuming, undeniable. But it carried scars that time could not erase. Even now when Daniel holds me, when his lips press against mine with the same hunger as that first night, I sometimes wonder if love born from betrayal can ever truly survive. Yet when he whispers my name, when his eyes burn with that same unshakable devotion, I know one thing for certain. We were never meant to live without each other. We had burned everything down to be together. And though the flames still haunted, I would choose him again, even if it meant walking through fire all over.